No, this game was not made by only 30 people. No, the developers of Sandfall Interactive are not all ex-Ubisoft devs. And no, it's not an indie game. Yet the mainstream media and social media in general will have you believe in this magical unicorn that doesn't exist. Everyone just keeps parroting the same thing over and over again, and hardly anyone has said the truth. Hardly anyone has verified the popular narrative that's being laid out there. And so the many myths behind Expedition 33 end up becoming facts. So in this video, I'm going to be debunking all of the lies being told by presenting actual facts that can be easily found online by anyone. Let's start with the most famous claim and the easiest one to debunk, which is that the game was made by 30 people. If you head on over to Moby Games, you can see a bunch of details about Expedition 33. You can see the publisher, release date, reviews, the credits, and oh wait, what is this? Well, this doesn't say 30. Seems to me like this has more than 2 digits. No way, Moby Games has to be wrong. This has to be some sort of typo. I mean, there sure seems to be a lot of people in the credits. A lot more than 30, that's for damn sure. Now, Moby Games isn't 100% accurate all the time, but this alone already proves that this game was not made by just 30 people. But for the sake of accuracy, I went to the magical AI slop that is YouTube, watched the credits, and wrote it all down with the names next to the roles they performed, counted the number of people involved with the project, and the total headcount is 286. That's including developers, programmers, artists, voice actors, musicians, QA testers, mocap, marketing, and localization. And I'm excluding the publisher and special things section of the credits, because while the publisher is involved with the project, I highly doubt all 63 people were involved. Plus, they don't even list what exactly each person did for this game. And the special things section can be for literally anything. You brought everyone sandwiches, you get a thank you credit. You massaged someone's feet, you get a thank you credit. You banged one of their wives, you get a thank you credit. Now, before you special people type in the comments that I'm being special right now because Sandfall Interactive's official website only lists 30 developers that are officially with the company, I'm going to make you feel extra special because even that is wrong. They have 28 developers, a secretary, and a dog. Plus, there's a little thing called outsourcing. The development for this game was outsourced to a lot of developers and in different countries like China. All of this can be seen in the very end credits. It's not hidden, it's not locked away behind a cheat code or anything. It is as clear as day. Hell, you can even see that the core development team isn't even 30. There's actually 38 developers listed on there before you start getting into the production partners section of the credits. And before you assholes attempt to move the goalpost by saying dumb shit like, well, we're talking about how many developers it took specifically to make the game, so your opinion is garbage. First of all, I'm not giving an opinion, I'm stating the facts as it is presented in the credits, and second of all, if you were to just count the developers, which in itself is stupid to do so, because the developers in this case did not make all of the elements put into the game, and stuff like voice actors and musicians are not free, you will still end up with 58 developers. So no matter how you want to slice it, Clair Obscure Expedition 33 was not made by just 30 people. It was produced by 286 people. This is the true scale of Expedition 33's production. It should be called Expedition 286, 28 and 6, 286. The next thing people online tend to claim is that the studio, Sandfall Interactive, is made up entirely of ex-Ubisoft developers. But if we were to go to Moby Games or LinkedIn, it is very easy to see that almost no one on the team used to work for Ubisoft. In fact, most of them haven't even worked on a game before Expedition 33, which is pretty impressive for a studio that's not only brand new, but that most of the staff are newcomers to the gaming industry and were able to produce a pretty decent game and an RPG at that. But which of them are ex-Ubisoft developers? Well, there's the creative director, audio lead and music designer, technical and cinematic sound designer, senior gameplay programmer, technical director, video and capture artist. That is all of them. Only 6 developers from Sandfall Interactive used to work for Ubisoft. So no, Clair Obscure Expedition 33 was not solely made by ex-Ubisoft developers. I mean, this was already debunked by just watching the credits, as developers from other countries were listed as being part of the project. The last great myth being pushed online is that Expedition 33 is an indie game. At the time of this video upload date, it's currently being nominated for 2 indie awards at the joke that is the Video Game Awards. This can be a little bit tricky to debate whether if it is or it's not an indie game, since there is no official industry standard to classify what is an indie game and what it's not. But we have seen what an indie game is, and therefore we have plenty of examples to go on. An indie game is usually developed by a small independent studio, which means it's not owned by a company, and can either have a very small or no budget to make a game. It's usually published by that same developer, but sometimes can be distributed by an outside publisher like Devolver Digital. And the price for an indie game is usually around $5 to $30. One perfect example of this is Hollow Knight Silksong. It was made and published by an independent studio. Silksong had 78 people involved with the project and is being sold for $20. Now, when it comes to Expedition 33, yes, the studio is technically independent and the core team is small. But again, this game had a decent production staff of 286 people involved with the project. This is much closer to that of a AA game like Sandfall, which had a production staff of 357 people. Also, just because a studio is independent does not automatically mean that it's indie. Look at Larian Studios, for example. While they are independent, they have multiple studios based in different countries, they have hundreds of employees at their disposal, and they have Tencent as an investor which owns 30% of the company. And Tencent is one of the largest corporations in the world, and it's often classified as the biggest equity investor for video games. So Larian is definitely not an indie studio. Now when it comes down to the budget, nobody knows exactly how much money was spent on the game. But on Sandfall Interactive's website, you can clearly see that they have received funding from not one, but 2 different government subsidiaries. And remember that this game is being published by Clair Interactive, so the studio has received money from 3 different sources. Plus, with this many people involved with the project, along with a 5-year development cycle, it's easy to see that this game's budget can easily be in the millions, especially when you have 1 moderate and 1 very famous actor involved with the project. Charlie Cox from Daredevil and Golem himself, Andy Serkis, performed some of the voice acting. Now these guys are not cheap to get. They could have easily cost like thousands of dollars per hour. And when was the last time you ever saw a famous Hollywood actors involved in an indie game? Since when do quote-unquote indie games have the money to afford people like that? Because if that's the case, then what the hell is even an indie game anymore? As long as you're not a AAA game and you're not spending hundreds of millions of dollars, you automatically fall into the indie game category? That would be straight up retarded. The term indie might as well not even exist. This also undermines real indie developers that are already struggling to get noticed in a sea of shovelware that floods Steam on a daily basis. Actual indie games that are pretty good and are worth your time should be the ones being nominated for indie awards. But you have the retards of the Game Awards show nominated Expedition 33 for Best Independent Game and Debut Indie Game. A similar thing happened years ago when Journey won Best Indie Game on the Spike Video Game Awards when it wasn't an indie game at all. Sony was the publisher for this game. It was a PlayStation 3 exclusive. It had a production staff of around 400 people, and Genova Chen, the founder of that studio, straight up said that the game cost multiple millions of dollars to make. So all of this has happened before. This is history repeating itself all over again. This just continues to show how meaningless the Video Game Awards is. But this also shows a much bigger problem, and that is internet hype. These days, if something is popular enough, people will accept and believe any narrative you put out in front of them, since the majority of them lack any critical thinking skills. They'll believe whatever bullshit is being spat out by their favorite streamer or YouTuber, and those people often don't even perform the basic task of verifying simple information that can be found in a few clicks. It's insane that anyone believed that Expedition 33 was made by just 30 people in the first place. I sure as hell didn't believe it, and I sure as hell know that this isn't an indie game. But who cares? Nobody will listen and nothing is going to improve. Continue living in the Matrix, you stupid sheep motherfucker.